on Robert's father, but that didn't make any sense, and she later recanted. In 1986, Robert and his siblings were removed from his mother's home by the Department of Children and Family Services, and they were sent to live with their grandmother in the Roseland neighborhood here in Chicago. Now, his grandmother's residence contained as many as 19 children. 19 in one house. And from what I've read and listened on podcasts, his grandmother's home was not much better than his previous home, and he was not treated very well there. By the age of eight, he dropped out of school and began to roam the streets, stealing cars, breaking into houses. 8 years old. At the age of 10, he was arrested on charges of armed robbery. Now, a psychological examiner at the time said that Yummy is a child growing up without any encouragement and support, and that he has a sense of failure that has infiltrated almost every aspect of his inner self. So in 1993, Yummy and his siblings were removed from his grandmother's home and were sent to the Lawrence Hall DCFS shelter. That's the Department of Children and Family Services shelter on the north side here. And that's where he ran away and never returned. So from 1993 until his death, his whereabouts and living arrangements were unknown. But he still continued to get in trouble and was continuously arrested by the authorities.
Okay, I'm back. Hey everyone, and welcome to the 1804 show, chapter 2. I'm your host, Dollar Will, and this is another episode of 1804 History. I just wanted to come on here and say I humbly appreciate everybody who's been supporting me, everybody who's been downloading my shows and sharing and supporting and a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah, I know I have been wanting to do this episode. A lot of stuff was happening last week, and I just wanted to just do everything right, just from the research, because I'm going to be adding a whole bunch of archive footage to this and everything. So once I'm finished with everything, most definitely go upload it. But yeah, like, comment, subscribe to the channel, The 1804 Show, Chapter 2. Now let's begin. So I'm going to do things a little differently because I want to humanize this little boy. Because they don't think that we can be products of our own environment. And they don't think that we can go down the wrong path when we are raised in horrific circumstances and drug gang infested communities. But this little boy by the name of Robert Yummy Sandifer went through hell from birth all the way to his death. I would say that he did have some good times, some good memories. And the media love to make it as if he was a monster, but he wasn't a monster. He was just a victim, as well as everybody else that stays in the hood. And this is why it's just really important for children to be raised in a two-parent household. It's really the necessity that no child should go without its parents, boy or girl, because you have no idea without one or two which demise or destruction can happen. But yeah, he was born March 12th, 1983, died September 1st, 1994, at the age of 11 years old. And his killers was also teenagers, and there was brothers, the Hardaway brothers, and they both were sentenced to over 50 years in prison in his murder. They got out and now free, and they did a interview on Big U's channel, and I'm going to leave a link to that. But I would just say that all parties involved in the story were children. They was kids. Even the girl, Siobhan Dean, may she rest in peace, she was only 14 years old when she was shot and killed. She was at the wrong place at the wrong time, and she was trying to get away. Ended up getting shot in the back of her head by Yummy, allegedly. You know, I wasn't there and stuff like that, and I send nothing but my love and my condolences to the family of Siobhan Dean. But we just have to realize that when it comes to our community, our village, that it takes a village to raise these kids. And it takes people that truly care to navigate, to raise, and to nurture these kids. It's just the realization of it all is that we're not going to be able to save everybody. And I do my best, you know, just as an elder, as an OG, you know what I'm saying? Just being 36 years old, whenever I see a young kid that's misbehaving or just being disrespectful, being loud and boisterous and stuff like that, you know, I try to take them to the side and just talk to him, ask him his name, ask him where he live, who your parents are and stuff. You know, don't be hanging around with these dudes. These dudes aren't your friends, or, you know, you have so much potential to be whatever you want. And if they don't listen, I can say that I did my best. You know, I was able to do my job as a adult figure. But things can be very troubling to someone who was raised in a toxic environment and wasn't given love. You know, when you don't get the proper unconditional love at home, you know, you go into the streets to try to figure out where the love's at. Who can I get it from? Like, who will love me for me? But there's no love in these streets. You know, I found out a long time ago is that the streets don't love nobody. You know, we fool ourselves when we're young or teenagers, even in our 20s. You know, we think because people love us outside, but that love outside is nothing to the love that we need on the inside. And he was put into the system as an infant, you know, being in foster homes and being abused by his mother, which I don't judge. You know, I don't judge anybody despite people's demons that they fighting. But it's just that if I had a kid, I believe my kid would make me snap out of whatever I'm dealing with internally. Because when you're a parent, when you're a father, when you're a mother, it's just really important that you figure it out, or you just snap out of whatever you're dealing with. And I don't know, what it's like to be a parent, but I just can only give my thoughts on just what would I do if a woman told me that she was having a baby, I was going to be a father. What would I do? I would just step up. But just everybody isn't me. I don't expect everybody to be me, but it's just from the interviews and the footage that I gotten from her is that she truly didn't know her son. She didn't know her son. And it's just really sad. It's just really unfortunate just how tragic his end was. And he was just looking to be accepted and be loved. Because his dad was in prison and just unable to raise his son, and who would have known how things would have turned out differently if he had his dad in his life. But he had other siblings. He had 10 more siblings. It was just him against the world. And I won't say that he was evil, but I would say that he was active in them streets and stuff. He was, had a reputation. Kids were scared of him. Adults were scared of him because he was known to pull that fire, And I'm really just trying to just find some type of essence. Because, back in the 90s and stuff like that, the Clintons and politicians was using the term super predators to describe our young city youth. And these are kids, you know what I'm saying? The same people that called out the Central Park Five, they called them super predators. And you could tell the acronym or the synonym to super predators mean niggas, you know what I'm saying? And we just gonna just cut the bullshit on how them people in them suits, how they view black people, how they view inner city kids, and how we were just evil and disruptive and had no type of ambition or goals. Like, we was just killing each other, joining these gangs because we thought it was the fad, it was cool and stuff like that. We wanted to just have some attention. But most cases is that, with the drugs and the crack epidemic and stuff like that, it was just really difficult for us to, have normal childhoods. It's impossible to just go to school when you go home to chaos. You go home to alcoholics. You go home to junkies. You go home to pushers and people who are gangsters. It's really difficult. It's just the fact, just how the gang that he eventually joined was the black disciples, how he was so young and so little that he didn't have the mental capacity or just the common sense factor yet to realize that he was being used. You know, just like the movie South Central with Little Jimmy, you know, stealing and breaking into cars and stealing radios and stuff like that. Like there was, well, the big fish would use the little fish to commit crimes and armed robbery, break-ins and home invasions and stuff like that to get money, and they would just pay them short change, or sometimes don't pay them at all, because these little kids look at these big fish as gods, you know what I'm saying, as father figures. So when somebody look up to you, or somebody be like, hey, I'm a fan of yours and this and that, you can get them to do anything. You know, you can get them to do the dirty work while you just sit back, because if they get caught, they're not going to charge them with hella years like they would do the big fish, because they consider juveniles. So it was just really a sad case, because he dropped out of school in the 3rd grade. He quit going to school. He was just out here just roaming around and just trying to be a ghetto star, basically. But also being manipulated, being gaslighted, being abused. And I won't say that like his family didn't love him, but I would say that they didn't know how to give him the type of love that a kid needs, that a kid crave. You know, in the black community and stuff, love is shown in different ways, and it can be very toxic, because we've been programmed to think things is right. You know what I'm saying? Just whoopings and open slaps and closed fists to the face or to the body. We think that's discipline, but it's not. It's abuse. You know, getting the cigarette burns put on you, on your legs, over your body as an infant, and this and that. You know, being starved most nights because it was too many people in the house that you lived at, which was over a dozen people living in his childhood home. So most times, or most cases, he didn't eat. He was only 4'8". He was just a small, tiny boy, you know, tiny child. But he was somebody that you didn't want no problems with. But yeah, it's just, you know, when I watch the interviews with his family, and I'm trying to say this with grace, but it was just so many enablers, so many excuses, and just trying to paint him as a normal kid. He was smart, like, oh, he used to work on cars and he could draw. He was a very smart kid. He was just a normal kid. But no normal kid is being assassinated like that. You know, just the fact like he will be gone hours of the night. 11-year-old kid in the streets like that after dark. It's terrifying. It's unimaginable. That don't even sound right. 11-year-old kid out in them streets in Roseland, that don't sound right. It just wasn't no accountability. Because, you know, we hear that all day, just with mothers be like, you know, I did the best I could. And sometimes your best sucks. You know, your best isn't or wasn't good enough. Otherwise, he would have been alive today. He would have been 41 years old. This happened 30 years ago. He would have been 41 years old if he would have lived. And if he would have survived that, he would have been blind. Because the bullet went from back of the head, came out his left eye. But to Siobhan Dean family, and I can imagine what you went through and just the horror of discovering her body laid out like that by the house. It's unfortunate. It's sad. But he was the youngest to ever appear on Time magazine. Front page, September 1994, he was nationwide famous. Like, his death really brought the attention that the nation needed to see, that they neglect, that they ignore. You know, they ignore things until they are able, or they have no choice but to take notice. And the brothers, like, when I watched their recent interview, I could tell that they have remorse, but it's just, they can't really put it out there like that. But everybody was kids, you know what I'm saying? So that's why I'm being lenient. I'm being fair with this episode. I'm being very light on anybody, because it's just, you just never know what can happen. And it's just all about choices at the end of the day. Because when you sit back and think about your childhood as an adult, and you think that you had it so bad, but it's people that have it worse. It's people that have it way painful than you do. Compared to other mothers, my mother was very strict. She was very loving to a certain extent. You know, she just always wasn't home, you know what I'm saying, because she had to raise us. She basically was a CNA, working nights and going to school in the morning. So I barely saw my mom, but I knew where she was at. I knew where to find her. And it's just kind of sad when you, a child, a little kid, you don't know where your mother at. You don't know where your father at, or your grandparents. You know, it's just sad. And then you go to the streets to find that missing piece of the puzzle. And you think that the people that you're hanging with in these streets, thinking that, wow, they my friends, they my brothers, this my family, but they're not. You know, at the end of the day, they was setting you up. And by him killing that little girl, they was going to kill him anyway, because they thought that he was going to snitch to the cops, snitch to the police. And tell him everything about the gang and about the entire situation or murder, you know what I'm saying? So they put a hit out on him. And I could just sit back and just think about how afraid that he was the moment he was forced to get on his knees and was assassinated like that. I don't think he fully was aware of what was going to happen next. I really believe that he thought that he could trust his gang, that he could trust his peoples, his newfound family, and those was the people that did it. And they all knew who he was, you know what I'm saying? He knew who his killers were because they came and picked him up from his house, because he went back to his grandmother's house and she told him that you can stay the night and we're going to take you to turn yourself in tomorrow. So obviously he knew his killers because he went with them. Didn't know that they was going to be the ones to take him out. But the most despicable, pathetic thing that I ever saw with my own eyes was how the neighborhood parents was putting their kids up to his face while he was in his casket to scare him straight or something, or to cause more psychological trauma or damage to the kids that was alive still, and said that, oh, this could happen to you if you join a gang, or this could happen to you if you follow in his shoes, or it was just sickening. But I always say that it's just weird that 400 people can show up to your funeral while you on your back, but 400 people can't show up to your house or to your neighborhood to help you get on your feet. You just sit back and think about that. You like, damn. But this little kid has a unmarked grave. It's been 30 years since this happened, and his grave is unmarked at the Oak Ridge Cemetery. Despite what people may think, despite what people may say, this kid didn't deserve any of that. I do believe that we all have a purpose on this planet. Sometimes our purpose is to live, and sometimes our impact will be when we die. And his impact was huge after his death, just to bring awareness about what goes on in these cities. And Chicago's still the same. It only got worse, I will believe, but it's just, not to hate on Chicago, because I would like to go there someday. So I don't want people to be taking what I'm saying out of context. I ain't never been to Chicago, only when I was on the bus and stuff like that for 3 hours because I had a layover. But, y'all know, what I'm saying, what I'm trying to say. But it's just unfortunate how this tragic story had ended, you know, just with everyone that was involved, from Yummy, from Siobhan, from the brothers. You know, it was really like a horrible end. But yeah, I'm finna go, y'all. I just wanted to tell the story. And like, comment, subscribe to the channel, the 1804 Show Chapter 2. And if you would like to leave a donation to the Cash App, $, the 1804 Show. All right, y'all, I'm out. Thank you. Peace.
From love, if you have any problems, talk to your parents, okay? Just show your parents that you love them. If you have any problems, talk to somebody, some adult.
Here, we'll see him. Is he hard?
Let me see.
Got the answers, but just from where I'm sitting at, I can see the only reason I ever came out and said, when I said I was living the thug life, believe me, it was all real. You know, and as sure as thug life is tattooed across my stomach, it will always be a part of me. But thug life is like the 12th grade. Some people graduate from high school and don't seek to do anything else. So they continually live the thug life. Some people want to go to college and want to go, hold on, let me pick up Yummy.
Okay, ready?